Where's a brother like you in Holland? I think you've been doing it for a while, too.
I've been doing it 16 years, right?
Stop.
So what I take from all my experiences, I bring them on stage, right? So there's a whole college experience that I could just do hours on being a student. I was in the military, so I traveled abroad before doing stand-up. And I booked the Amsterdam show 16 years ago.
All right.
And they just fell in love with me. They was just like, I wasn't the typical American comic because, you go over there, prostitution and marijuana, it's all legal. And I was one of the first American comic who didn't touch on none of that stuff. And they were blown away. They was waiting for me to do that, and I didn't touch on any of that stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
No, is it true that around some particular holiday they do blackface in Holland? What's
Right.
up with that?
So they do Black Pete. Some call them Swatsa Pete. So it's racist. And for me, when you go to different countries, I could play with it, but I can't get too serious because I am a visitor, and they will make sure I won't ever come back there. So the thing about that, and I made it funny, and everybody laughed.
Sure.
So the Dutch people, they say it's not racist. White people go on blackface giving kids candy, and they do it every year. They march every year, and it is very much racist. However, how I flipped it on stage, I said, I don't have a problem with white people wearing blackface. I said, but the problems that we go through, they should get them. Like there should be some police beating your butt. You shouldn't get into an apartment. Like you should be treated like that person you want to paint in your face. And then I asked the Dutch people, I said, let me just ask you this question. I said, if it wasn't about being racist, how come Swatsa Pete don't give candy at the airport, at the international airport? Because that's the only place he's not there. He's in the towns, but at the airport, he is not there. And everybody applauded. I'm like, okay, I'm good. So, yeah, and they speak English very well. They don't watch our TV or anything like that. No,
not at all.
They don't watch our TV and stuff like. But yeah, and it's good. It's a.
So when we plan a trip to Holland, we'll have.
I know Holland like Brooklyn. I know
take
it.
us through,
I know it.
We'll
take you to the Anne Frank house, to the canals.
All right.
Yeah, she's not gonna be there, but I'm
right. I did want to talk to you a little bit about mental health also. There have been a rash of suicides. Some celebrities, a number of celebrities have lost their kids, which is so unfortunate.
Right.
Sports people, but then just your average person. The suicide rate is extremely high, particularly among African-American males between the ages of 15 and 19.
Right.
It's like the third leading cause of death.
Wow.
So a lot of it has to do with sadness and depression.
Yes.
And so being a comedian, I can imagine that there are times, too, that maybe you dealt with some sadness or depression or...
Yeah, I think, I guess we all deal with sadness.
I agree
and stuff.
with you.
I think, I do any studies, obviously. I think there's a lot of reasons why this is happening. But when I think about my own personal life, like growing up with the men in my family, whether they were alcoholics or abusive, as a kid, I used to hate my stepfather, right? Because he was a drunk, he was on drugs, he was very abusive to my and the only dream, my only bucket list was to make sure when I get old enough to kind of beat him up. I was doing my push-ups because he was a drug addict. And then I felt so sad for him when I found out his backstory. So I think a lot of backstories of men and women who didn't go to therapy passed it on to their kids, right? And when I found out his aunt, who was supposed to raise him and his 6 brothers and sisters, she sent him to foster homes, split them up, and then he was drafted. He never did drugs before the Vietnam War. And then he got drafted and went over there, and he came back. And most of those men never went to therapy.
Never.
And it was just passed on.
Right.
They didn't get help in the beginning.
I agree with you.
And so I never felt so sad for a person when I found out. And he went to Vietnam. And, back then, they allowed them to do drugs over there.
Right.
And then when they came back home, nobody helped them. So then they went to beating, and so it was just like, so I think, we have a long history of people who have mental health issues, and they never dealt with it.
And I really appreciate you being quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I need to be vulnerable also. I had alcoholism in my family also with my dad, and some domestic violence. And I think that young men need to hear that, you can live with some of that, but you can still do wonderful things with your life. You can still be a comedian. You can still go to school and do whatever you want to do.
Right. And sometimes I self-diagnose myself without any degrees or anything, but I give you a good example. I've been horrible with finances. I had a non-caring attitude all the way up to college when they was allowed to give you 4 or 5 credit cards. And I didn't care. I didn't care of ever paying it back. And when I actually graduated and became older, I was like, man, where did this come from? I would do like my own self-inventory on myself. And then I realized I didn't come from a long line of people who knew about finance. My mother never taught me about it. Her mother never taught her about it. And it was passed on to me of having this non-caring attitude about fun. My grandmother, there was a reason why my grandmother kept money in her house. She didn't trust people. They didn't trust people. She coming from Columbia, South Carolina, and Aikens. They said, so investment to people who grew up in the 50s, investment was like, nah, that's another trick they plan on us.
Right,
I'm going to give them my money, and then it's going, I'll keep it in a bag or safe at home. So we come from a long line.
Right.
I come from a long line of history of people not knowing. And I think, let me ask you this question. Do you think everyone needs mental or therapy, mental health?
I think on certain levels, it depends, but I think that we all can and need someone that we can confide in.
Okay.
So if you have a close friend, and it depends on the severity too, of course, what you're looking at, that you're talking to. And I know women typically do better than us men.
Right.
And that's kind of why we're doing this show, so that we can encourage men. Come on, let's talk to each other.
Right.
We have someone that we sometimes, one of the guests, Billy Council, he runs a kind of a restaurant gathering of men and their sons, so they can kind of get together and kind of talk to each other, whatever. So we need to encourage men to talk about, to each other.
Right.
So I think that we all need that, definitely. Now, when you're talking about professional work, it kind of depends on what's going on. If you have, what we call clinical depression as opposed to just some sadness or what have you, certainly you may need to see someone and work through that, But we have to support each other, man. That's what it's all about,
Do you think they throw around that word toxic a lot? Do you think they throw that word around?
Well, that's good. We're going to come back to. I was going to say to you, when we talk about toxic masculinity, what is that? What does that sound like to you?
These days, being a man, I think they throw that word out there so much. You kind of got to fall back on the way you was raised. Like the men in my family, they were men. Not good husbands, but they were men. They took the boys out. You got a certain age.
Right.
I'm the only boy in my family. They took me out. They had me under them. And I just think today when I hear that, I hear my son threw that out. Like my son threw that out today. And just because I told him to do his homework. And it's like everybody, it's like Chris said it too, like fake outrage. You don't know who needs it. And, if I was dealing with something, struggling with something, and I felt like I couldn't help, I wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, I could tell. I could see you on stage from your comedy on stage.
I would not have no problem going.
Like you said, the audience, you do therapy with.
Right, I know, right. So I don't have no problems, but I just toxic. What is it? What is it?
Well, I think that we have a great example now when we talk about toxic masculinity. When we look at what's happening, we're not getting to politics, but when we talk about what's happening with these ICE officers.
Right.
Mike, you and I pulling women out of
Yeah.
cars and throwing them. I mean, the lack of empathy, kids.
Yeah.
So that's part of what we call that toxic masculinity, where you can, you don't exhibit any kind of empathy toward other people,
Right.
or no concern, or nor sympathy, or what have you.
Right.
So, no, this country is in a pretty bad way when it comes to that.
And it's scary, right? So, like, when I understand politics long, what's scary for me is that there were other presidents that I didn't vote for, but I was all right with. I mean, they all have their stuff.
Right.
This here is scary.
It is outrageous.
It's just as scary. That's all.
It really is.
And yeah, that's it's scary. Like, and even for I've been in the military. Like, it is scary. I wouldn't want us, and I'm gonna leave it here. I wouldn't want this country to get ready to go to war because we are so divided. Like,
Right.
I don't know if now we're together.
Right.
If you like me for me, like, are you going to protect me? Like, this is a scary place to be.
Sure. So, we've been talking quite a bit. What you want to tell us? What's up new? What's coming up new for Brooklyn Mike? Brooklyn Mike be everywhere. I got a couple of those.
Brooklyn, yeah.
Brooklyn be everywhere.
Because of how this industry is going, I can honestly say within the last 5 years or so, independent, like working on I'm putting more energy into my fan base so I can shop straight to consumer. Like, I totally believe Hollywood is the Roman Empire, and it's falling. It's falling because of streaming. Like, when you see your A-listers doing shows on Hulu and Netflix, Hollywood is falling.
Yes.
And so all I can do is shoot my own stuff and work on my fan base. Those people that come out and support me, work on it,
Right.
Work on it increasing.
Have you seen any AI of yourself being posted? I have to say that I saw something. Somebody sent me something, and I'm not.
What's so funny about AI though?
Before we go, we'd like to take time out and say thanks to our podcast community recording here in Harlem, who worked to bring you this episode. Thanks to producers Leonard DePlunk, Paula Farmer, and Jack Hamill. Jack and Leonard on the soundboard and camera, our tech heads. Vanessa McKnight and Cheney McKnight. Stephen Williams, who is mostly in the shadows these days. David Aaron of Short Memory Records for allowing us to use of that sweet jazz number Soy Sauce. And a very special Harlem thank you to international comedian Brooklyn Mike Troy. Thanks for being with us, Brooklyn Mike. You have been listening to Hats Off with Dr. James McKnight. Be well. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice. Please consult with a healthcare professional regarding any health conditions or concerns. Help is available. Speak with someone today. Dial 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Languages are in English and Spanish. Hours are 24/7. If you need help, please speak with someone today.